Now, a coalition of organizations under the umbrella for human rights groups have commented on the Solai tragedy. They held a media briefing this morning during which they asked the government to compensate victims of the Solai Dam tragedy. They also want further investigations carried out on the Solai Patel Dam disaster that occurred on the 9th of March.
Tomorrow it will happen somewhere. If we continue accepting such kind of things, life of Kenyans will not be good. There are other violations. There are people who are called victims but are not victims. These are called imposters. There is information on the ground that these people were actually sent by the government officers who are on the ground and told them to lock their houses and go and pretend to be imposters and pretend to be victims. These are the people who are receiving what is not meant for them. This is very unfair. And you ask anyone who can help the victims, come out. This is our country, these are our people. If you accept violation of your rights to continue, Kenya will not be the place we want it to be. Thank you very much. Do you have any particulars who you're saying there is? The chiefs the chiefs they're there. If you come to the ground, you'll get that fact. It's there. If these people need to be investigated, if you go to their homes, you'll find foodstuffs, you'll find clothing. The clothing that people are receiving there, these are just clothes which most of them were taken away, and the torn ones are the ones which were given to the victims. Yes, my friend.
Okay. Speak. Habari zenyu nyote. Kwa majina ni Steven Kariuki. Mimi pia ni mwadhiriwa wa Solai Water Dam. Na sitarudia yale ndugu yangu ambayo amesema yote. Nitaguzia machache ambao labda hakugusa kwa sababu pia nami nilikuwa ninataka kuongea yenye amesema. Hivyo sitarudia yenye amesema. Kwanza kabisa ningerudisha shukurani kwa wote ambao walihusika kwa msaada ambao walileta katika Solai wakati tulipata hilo janga. Kuna watu wengi walitusaidia kwa njia mbalimbali na wote narudishia shukrani, Mwenyezi Mungu awabariki. Langu swali ni moja tu ningetaka kuuliza. Tangu wakati ule tulipata hili janga la Solai, sisi kama waadhiriwa hatujawahi husishwa pale popote katika komiti yote ambayo imekuwa ikijadili haya mambo. Kwanza kabisa wakati tulipangiwa mazishi, tulikuwa surprised kuambiwa siku fulani ndio mtazika.
Human rights organizations there speaking about the Solai Dam tragedy and the compensation plan. For more details, let's now speak to our reporter live from Nakuru, Elfas Lagat. He's joining us from Nakuru. Elfas, good afternoon. I mean, from what we've just had, the human rights activists seem to be saying that compensation is going to the wrong people who are not victims of the Solai Dam tragedy. Tell us more about that.
Good afternoon to you, Akisa, in the studio. As you've mentioned, there are complaints from residents of Solai who were affected when on 9th of May, one of Patel Dam's paved way to raging waters and rubbles and debris that swept an entire village. Now, their complaints is that once the process of trying to aid these people, give them humanitarian support in order to return them back to normalcy, has been infiltrated by falsity. They're accusing some of their leaders, area chiefs, that some of them are even being preposterous. They're asking for commissions. And you would remember that Kenya Red Cross has divided these people into clusters. There will be those who are supposed to be compensated, rather given 100,000, not a compensation, 100,000 if they owned a permanent house, 50,000 for semi-permanent, and 30,000 if they were tenants. 149 of them termed as tenants, 69 of them as semi-permanent owners, and 9 of them for permanent. So today we had a conversation with Kenya Human Rights Commission, and right now I'm joined by the director for the commission who've been assessing this whole situation. And he mentioned he had a very strong position. Mr. Kigoro, thank you for joining us. You had a very strong statements on this particular issue that the aid that is getting to these people is being misappropriated.
Yeah, thank you very much. We deployed a fact-finding mission in Solai last week to assess what had happened after the tragedy of the bursting of the dam. So we will issue a full report that constitutes our findings. The report is being prepared. But what we did today was to issue a press statement as an interim feedback to the public about the things that we have established on the ground after the tragedy. We've said in the statement that a significant amount of the responses by the authorities were appropriate and responsible, and we commend those authorities that managed to do that. But we've also said that some of the responses are grossly inadequate, and something needs to be done about it. To begin with, there is a lack of involvement of the local community in the decisions that have been made after the aftermath of the tragedy. As part of that, funerals were arranged, and they were just told the burials for your people are going to be on these days. On this day, there was no consultation whatsoever. There is no participation by them at all in the decisions that are being made in their lives. Secondly, as you've said and as they've alleged this morning very strongly, the process of identifying those who are affected by the tragedy has been infiltrated by bogus claims. There are people whose names are being presented as having been involved, but they were not actually involved and had no loss whatsoever. So the integrity of the claims process has come into question. Thirdly, there isn't information going to them or to the larger public about the decisions that the government is making.
Let me just cut you on that. You've mentioned on the part of inadequate, and lastly and real quick, that, and we had a conversation with a number of your team saying that there is state negligence on this matter, and that justice for these who lost their loved ones and those who lost their properties is still elusive. Is the government doing enough, and should Patel be brought to book on this matter?
The law is, if you bring things onto your land that are not there, do not exist there naturally, you do so at your own risk if they escape and hurt other people. The fact seemed to be that Patel brought onto his land water that he diverted from rivers and built a series of dams. By doing so, he has assumed the risk of containing within his land safely a very large body of water. That water has escaped and it has hurt people. The law is that liability in that kind of situation is strict. There's no way he can escape liability, and we would like a process to unfold on the part of at the behest of the government that recognizes that legal position.
Thank you so much, Mr. George Kegoro, who is the Executive Director for Kenya Human Rights Commission, speaking to us on the way forward as outcry of the residents of Solai who were affected by the tragedy continue to be amplified, seeking for justice and seeking that the government holds parties of promise of working with them until they restore normalcy in the area. Back to you, Akisa.
Alphas, thank you. I believe this is a story that our Alphas Lagat is definitely going to be following up on, just to try and unravel what the truths are as regards those allegations that are being made there by human rights groups. Thank you, Alphas, for that. He's joining us live from Nakuru. Now, the Standard Media Group